Good morning, dear viewers. The topic of this lecture is Karl Marx on law and state. Karl Marx and theory of state and law. The doctrine of socio-economic formation is particularly important to Marx's theory of state and law. If we try to understand Marx, we need hours, we need rather weeks to understand what he completely, totally says about society, about classes, about state, and about law. But since this particular theme is focusing on law and state, we have to refer to it very minutely and with particular focus and vision. To understand his theory of law, we have to understand his doctrine of socio-economic formation. For him, everything has been economically interpreted. Everything has been economically an outcome of economic activities or economically created. So the doctrine of socio-economic formation is particularly important to Marx's theory of state and law also. Marx explains political and legal formation through class formation and not from the external characteristics. For him, for Marx, all the legal formations, all the political formations, all the class formations are actually the result of economic factors. They are not the result of external characteristics of a society, rather, the very economic features of that particular society. Kellen, we have to refer to his theory to understand it better way. Kellen, one of the most recently when popular Swedish theorist of the state, distinguishes five elements of state. He says that the state has five elements: territory, that is land; people, the population of the state; economy. Economy, again, what Marx says, economic structures, economic institutions; and finally, state as the formal legal subject of power. Kellen says that state is the formal legal subject of power. Kellen's conceptualization relates itself a lot to Marxian concept of power and legal state. Of course, this is what Marx says too, but still, he didn't catch the main point which Marx focuses on. What Marx says typically is the division of society into classes and the class domination loading the Marxian strength. What made Marx different from other thinkers is his very sharp understanding and very beautiful explanation to class struggle, to formation of classes, to the basis of class formation, to what the class formation does, to what the class formation affects the human life with. This is what Kellen's and other theories have been missing with. Marxism and law. Marx's theory of law and state is coterminous with understanding of the society and the social processes. Marx's theory of law and state are coterminous with understanding of society and the social processes. Whatever society is experiencing through, whatever social processes are taking place and continuing in the social order in society, they are coterminous with Marxian conceptualization of law and state. The sociological understanding of society made Marx believe that the communist society, that is classless, communist for him is classless society, stateless society, based on rational planning, cooperative production, and equality of distribution, and most importantly, liberation from all forms of political and bureaucratic hierarchies. Marx, at the end of his theory, or you can say the main focus of his theory, is that he very strongly believes and explains that the liberation from all forms of political and bureaucratic hierarchies means a stateless society. It has features of cooperative production, rational planning, and equal distribution. Class struggle is a giant theory propounded by Karl Marx. Referring to the theory, it is an inclusive narrative of the development of classes in society as interpreted by him. Class struggle theory of Marx is very interesting theory to understand the narrative of class formation, that what happened in the beginning when there was no class, what happened, what occurred in society, what happened in society, what made classes come on the surface, what made classification of social order, classification of people in the society, and law and state are composite parts of the theory of class struggle. Marx views society as a very prominent reflection of class struggle And he says that in the course of understanding the class struggle, in the course of understanding the factors behind class formation, and then the factors behind the alienation, the factors behind the struggle between the classes, he says that law and state come in. So law and state are the composite parts of class formation, and they have to be understood in the structure and in the framework of class formation and class struggle itself, as per Marxian views. Prominent features of Marxian class struggle. I told you in the beginning also that it is impossible to discuss law and state separately without class struggle, but it is also even more impossible to discuss class struggle right now, because that is such a lengthy theory that will not be able to focus or even come on to law and state for hours. So I'm trying to just in brief discuss what class struggle of Marx is, so that we are able to lead ourselves next to understanding what he says about law and state. Prominent features of Marxian class struggle are economic determinism. Marx talks about economic determinism. He says that everything in society is determined by the economic processes, economic features, economic factors. For him, economy is the infrastructure, and religion, ideas, polity, all other are suprastructures which are 100% influenced by what economic features do on. Dialectical materialism, negation of negation. Development of proletariat, that is the development of the majority class, that is called the labor class. And how does it come at? He talks about that economy or economic factors are the reasons behind formation of the classes of bourgeois and proletariats. Bourgeois are the capitalist class, the class of haves, those who own the means of production, and proletariats are the class of laborers who are called have-nots and who are dependent on the bourgeois, the capitalist class, for their survivalhood. Importance of property. Property is again land, machinery, even the people, even the labor who are working. Identification of economic and political power and authority. He says that in the structure of class struggle or in the structure of class formation, power and authority take their own shape. Surplus value. Surplus value is, in non-technical term, we call it profit. So surplus value for Marx is again in hands of the capitalist class, because they spend money, they earn money, and they spend it in a way that they spend less and they earn more. Pauperization is increasing poverty, increasing gap between the rich and the poor, increasing gap between the labor and the capitalist class. Alienation, the sense of dehumanization, the sense of estrangement, which comes up in the labor class. Class solidarity and antagonism. Finally, when we discuss or whenever we have some lecture on class struggle itself, we will discuss in details that how alienation sows the seed of revolution, how alienation leads to solidarity among the people who are suffering, that is the labor class or the proletariat class, and how it gives up birth to antagonism against the capitalist class, against the bourgeois, revolution, and then socialism. Marx says that once the labor class is united, they are politically organized, they turn out to be class in itself, to class for themselves, for itself, revolution comes up, and there is socialism. Socialism is a classless society, a stateless society. So again, we'll refer here that for Marx, classless society is stateless society, because this reflects what he believes about state. During the course of elaborating this theory, Marx refers to law and state as operating in reflexivity with the class development and class struggle. I'll repeat again that for Marx, law and state are nothing separate, nothing independent of the class structure formation and class struggle. They are very much the part of the class struggle and class formation in society. Now, focusing on law and state, the Marxian conceptualization. For him, for Marx, law is nothing more else than function of economy without independent existence. Marx says that law is something which exists within the society through the function of economy. Economy functions in a way that law comes out in a particular manner. The law comes out in an amended form. The law comes out in a codified form. Law performs in economic realms and economic conditions. He says that law performs an economic structure, economic framework, economic realms. Law is not independent of economic functioning and economic institutions, and economic conditions determine legal functions and functioning of the legal institutions, including state. Now he says that economic structures, whatever way they are existing, whatever problems they are facing, whatever advantages they are having, whatever good things they are enjoying, whatever bad things they are suffering from, that will determine the functioning and the functions of the legal institutions, including the state. For Marx, state operates in a particular way depending upon the economic institutions and economic performance of that particular state or society. Marx discusses state in the light of class war, and for him, state is a tool in the hands of bourgeois to exercise their power on the oppressed classes. Marx says, we know that about Marxism, the prominent feature of his theory building is class division. Class division is rich and the poor, or you have different terms to be used for it. They are bourgeois, they are capitalists, they are haves, they are privileged, they are oppressors, and in case of the poor one, they are the proletariats, they are the oppressed ones, they are the have-nots, they are the deprived ones. So for Marx, state is a tool in the hands of the bourgeois to exercise the power of oppressed power, their power over the oppressed classes. So the rich class, the capitalist class, use state, or you may say in Marxian perspective, state exists as a tool in hands of the capitalist class to even more oppress or to oppress the lower classes. That is the labor class or proletariat class. State by Marx has been explained as a committee to manage the common affairs of bourgeois. State in Marxian concept is a very casual concept in hands of the bourgeois class, is a very casual tool in hands of the rich class. It acts as a committee which is particularly formed or particularly used by the rich class to do or to bring about execution to whatever they plan for, or as we see here, to manage the common affairs of bourgeois. What are the common affairs in that sense? They may be oppressing the labor class, getting more work from them, earning more profit, that is what we call in Marxian term is surplus value, and the like. Marxian theory building represents the conformance of the state theory to the economic interpretation of history, in which forces of production determines people's productive relation. What are forces of production? Forces of production are the means of production seen in relation to relationship of production. So means of productions, MOP, relationship of production, ROPs. MOPs and ROPs together make the economic structure of a particular society. And then Marx says that this economic interpretation of history is the background, is the platform to understand the conformance to state theory. For Marx, to develop state theory, it is very important to understand what has been the economic interpretation of history of that particular society, because the means of production and the relationship of production, they together construct, they together make the economic interpretation available to understand what finally state is, or what finally state has been doing, or what function state has been adored with in Marxian theory building. A latest theory, if you refer to it, a latest theory states that the power is concentrated in the hands of those who hold key positions in society. The latest theory focuses on the people who hold power. They are the ones who hold key positions in society. But Marx states that it lies in the hands of those who own economic resources. This is the feature what makes Marx entirely or quite different from many and rather many uncountable theorists. Many theorists have taken one particular base to explain society, explain state, explain law. But Marx says that economy is the basic to understand what other things are. Again, going back to economic determinism. Here also we refer again, elitist theory states that power is concentrated in hands of those who hold key position in society. But Marx says that who will hold the key position in society, who will actually own the means of production, who will actually own the economic resources. State is the form in which the individuals of ruling class, that is capitalists and bourgeois in Marxian terminology, enact their common interests. Marx says that with the help of state, the bourgeois very easily enact their even common interests, not only surplus value, not only oppression of the poor, but the common interests. The economic power of bourgeois is transformed into political power. This way, the economic power they have in their hands is that is economy, industry, labor, raw material, power to avail raw material, all those powers are transformed into political powers because with the help of that economic power, they are able to gain political power by the way of having state in their hands. In this process, the entire political process, the courts, the police, and other legal institutions become subservient to the power structure and own the state in a way. Very obvious in Marxian terminology, when a particular class will hold or will own all the means of production, industry, money, economic resources, obviously it will make, Marx says that it will make all the legal institutions, including judiciary, including legal institutions, including any institution which is working for law and legal maintenance of the society, they will become subservient in the hands of the capitalist, or we may say rich class. Marx says that the political power is in fact the organized power of the ruling classes to be exercised on the oppressed class. For Marx, economic power is actually the root of getting political power, and the political power becomes the organized power in the hands of ruling classes, and then they use this organized power derived from economic power to oppress the poor classes. That is what the role of state and law for Marx is in class formation and class structure. State, according to Marx, performs two functions, and the functions are corresponding to two notions of the state. Marx says that state has two types, is of two types, it has two forms. Number one, state as it is, and number two, state as it ought to be. State as it is. State as it is, according to Marx, this is the state which is subservient to the ruling class and is acting as its agency to accomplish bourgeois goals and to exploit the oppressed class. Perhaps Marx, right now at this particular point, was actually trying to understand what is happening in the class struggle. So that is what he says, state as it is. State the way he observing is. State the way people are observing it as like. So state, when it's existing in the class division, in the class structure, in the class struggle, it is actually in the hands of capitalist class, and the capitalist class is using the state to oppress the poor class because they have economic power, they have political power, so state will become subservient to them. So state as it is the state in hands of the capitalist class to exploit the poor class, that is the proletariat class. Now state as it ought to be. According to Marx, this is the state in the classless and stateless society. That is the state in communism, which gets after the revolution brought by proletariats against the bourgeois. Now, Marx says that finally, after being exploited, after having alienation, after being fully ruined by the oppression, the labor class, the proletariat class will get united, they will get organized, and they will organize a revolution against the capitalist class. And finally, due to being larger in number, due to being strengthened in number, more than that of the capitalists, they'll be, that is, proletariats will be able to kill the bourgeois, and the state or the classes will be totally ended, and there will be a classless society, there'll be a stateless society. That is what Marx says a state ought to be, whereby state will not function as a tool in hands of bourgeois or rich people to exploit or to ruin the lower classes, because there'll be no class division as such. In conclusion, law and state both are mechanics of ruling classes as per Marxian interpretation and theory. So for Marx, law as well as state are the tools in hands of the capitalist class to maintain the status quo. The dominant class, which owns the means of production, is the center of political power and hence make the state and law operate in curriculum of class structure. Marx says the dominant class is the bourgeois class, the haves, the rich class. So they have everything in their hand. They have means of production in their hands. They regulate the relationship of production. So they have economic structure totally gripped up in their hands. So with the help of this economic power, they own state and law as their elements. They own state and law as their committees, as their agencies to further establish their dominant position. No theory can escape criticism. So goes for Marx theory also. That is about state and law too. But the way Marx has related state and law with class development and class struggle, the logic seems well established. At the end, I would like to repeat that for Marx, state and law are nothing beyond and more than that of the powers in hand of the bourgeois class. So, state and law are to be interpreted, are to be understood only in context of class struggle. Thank you so much. God bless you all. We'll meet soon.